A production app's infrastructure comprises many resources, and as these resources grow, managing and deploying them requires more thought and effort. One of the big issues in infrastructure as code is how do we manage the dependencies between resources? For example, before we can deploy an EKS cluster in a DynamoDB, we need to have a VPC set up. And only after the DynamoDB and EKS clusters are set up can we launch the services attached to those resources. That makes deploying these resources simultaneously impractical. Here's what it looks like managing those dependencies in End of Zero. Here we have a workflow YAML defining the environments we're going to deploy, the names and template names we're going to be utilizing. It also explicitly defines those dependencies. And we can declare when a resource like the configuration service has multiple dependencies. Here we are in the N0 dashboard, and we're going to create a new deployment based on that YAML file using this template that points to that Git repo. But as mentioned earlier, this YAML file relies on other templates that we've defined. In this case, all we're doing is calling other templates that we've created, which again are simply infrastructure as code files defined in your Git repo. One of the advantages to workflows is the ability to use multiple infrastructure as code frameworks. For example, we can have our VPC and EKS managed by Terraform, deploy our database using Pulumi, and then have Kubernetes manage our services. Let's go ahead and run this deployment now. When we hit run, we'll see a graph of the dependencies of the environments that we're running. As you can see here, the VPC and network is being created first. If we click on the VPC and network, that'll take us to the deployment log of that resource where we can inspect the Terraform plan and Terraform apply. And now that this has been created, if we go back to our dependency graph, we'll see that the database and EKS are now being created. Now that the database and EKS have been deployed, our service mesh is dependent on the EKS only. Our DB monitoring service is dependent on DB only, but our configuration service must wait for both the DB and the EKS. And that's how you deploy a production app's infrastructure using N0's workflows. This goes across multiple infrastructure as code frameworks like Terraform, Pulumi, and Kubernetes, as well as automating the dependencies between each of the provisioned resources.